Hello, viewers, and welcome to the Cyber Podcast. My name is Denny Sakala, and I'm your host today. On today's episode, the SEDROBZ series, which is a special episode that is brought to you in relation to the SEDROBZ project, whose acronym is described in the description below. This project is meant to advance electoral justice. It's meant to advance access to electoral justice. On today's episode, we are joined by Dr. Neo Simutanyi. He is a political economist with over 30 years' experience in teaching, research, and consultancy. He is currently an independent consultant and chairs the board of Center for Policy Dialogue, where he served as an executive director for over 16 years. He has also previously worked as a researcher fellow for the Institute of Social and Economic Research and also a lecturer of political science at the University of Zambia. He has conducted numerous research, produced journals, and written and published a number of papers. In one short line, he is a distinguished expert in political economy, which very much precedes him. Welcome, Dr. Simon.
Thank you for inviting me.
It's such an honor to have you here.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to go right into our discussion today. So my first question is, political parties are often the center of electoral disputes, but they are also a key factor in preventing them. What's your opinion on that? In what ways can political parties actually prevent electoral disputes?
That it's important to start with understanding what political parties are. Defining what is a political party. Because when you know what a political party is, then you can understand what problems a party then experiences. A political party is an organization that is established primarily to win power, political power. So, to do that, a political party must put forward an alternative vision of how society can be organized. Now, there are many ways in which society can be organized. Others want to organize society on religious lines. A set of parties called the Christian Democratic Party. There are parties that want to use Christian principles in governing. Then there are those who want to govern based on what is called social democracy. These are parties that want to promote social welfare for the majority of the people, ensuring people have pensions, ensuring that women have maternity leave or maternity support, ensuring that there's child support to them, ensuring that there's a living wage, for example, for workers, and that pensions make sense to people. The social security makes sense. In Germany, for example, there's a party called the SPD, the Social Democratic Party of Germany. It is there mainly formed by the working class, and it's there to promote the interests of working class and the poor people, or the weak. In the UK, you have the Labour Party, which is also part that is formed by the Labour movement, and it's there to promote the welfare of working people. Everything to do with working people. And then you have, of course, parties that support or promote interests of business people, of the business class, and it's there to promote policies such as the low taxation, incentives, investments, and so forth. So that is broadly what parties are. But parties are organizations, meaning that they are run on a day-to-day basis by some people. So in that running of a political party, there are differences. And these differences are the main disputes that arise. They arise from leadership, outside of leadership, in that while parties will have a manifesto and a constitution, that will have every 5 years we elect a leader. Many times they don't do that, especially in Zambia. Many times the leader who formed the party becomes the party itself. In other words, they can't be moved. So people get unhappy at the fact that you have one leader who cannot be moved. So they challenge them. And those who challenge them sometimes find themselves kicked out of the party. When there are grievances in the party, ideally, they are supposed to be resolved through a dispute grievance handling mechanism within the party. Many parties, especially Zambian parties, rarely utilize the existing dispute resolution mechanism within their parties. For example, referring a matter to a disciplinary committee and ensuring that the disciplinary committee handles it. It's very rare that happens. So you find that every day or every other time, people are expelled from parties, for bringing a party into disrepute. They are expelled because they were seen associating with somebody from an opposing party and so forth. But most importantly, the majority of dispute in political parties are between members and leaders of political parties. And they are caused by the fact that most of the parties, I would just say all the parties, at least the Zambian ones, I can say this without any fear of contradiction, they lack internal democracy. Internal democracy is where a party allows members to question things. A party allows its members to participate in electoral office. Now, you're not just made a district chairman of the party. No, there must be elections. And also, within the party, it must be possible for members to question things. To say, no, why are we doing things this way? Why not that way? But it must be possible. Those mechanisms for airing grievances within parties simply don't exist. Not because they are not provided for. They are normally provided for in this constitution that the parties have, but that's not enforced. So, in the main, you find that a party that does not have issues is a party which is owned as a property of the leader. The leader is unchangeable. The leader cannot be questioned. Those are parties and the leader funds everything anyway. So members are simply followers, but followers of a thing type, followers who are like leading, who are being led like in a church. Because I've never been to a church where someone in the congregation can challenge a pastor or a preacher. What you are saying is a lie. The preacher will just talk, or a priest People just listen until the end. This is how some of these political parties are run. That anyone who challenges the leader finds themselves ejected from the party. So I think that's really, but we can, I think explore more if you want to discuss more about the nature of the dispute.
Thank you so much. So you spoke of these disputes. What's the nature of them? What type is it? Maybe say what type are they and what's the nature of them?
Yeah. Let me give you an ideal scenario. An ideal scenario is a party in power. A party in power has won elections. So what this party does is you have the executive, like the president, then you have the party secretariat. Now a party has a structure and so on, then there's also government. So there are expectations from the party that the president who has been elected, who leads the party, will maybe favor the party with public appointments for party members, empower members with, some of these empowerment things that are there. But then, not everyone is happy about how the president turned about. So they begin to question. The president of the party is also a president of the country sometimes. So there is no organized debate around how members can react to what the president is doing. So people begin to talk about satisfaction with how things are going within the party, right? But that talk, that dissatisfaction is interpreted as disloyalty. Those people are not supposed to. They are not supposed to question it. When they question the president, they lower the popularity of the party. So those who are talking are then labeled to be dissatisfied and so forth. And they can go. I mean, go is that they can resign if they want. Or, alternatively, they are disciplined because they're not supposed to talk to the public. They're not supposed to say these things. So they are disciplined, either they are suspended, sometimes they are expelled in the party. Within, so that is really general satisfaction coming from the membership within the party. Then there are issues of what I would call elections within parties. That's another area of dispute. Most constitutions of political parties will say that all elective positions, in other words, all positions in the party are elective. From the ward up to the presidency, they're elective. So what does it mean to be elective? What it means is that people serve a term of office, 5 years. They're elected as ward chairman, committee members, and so forth, up to the National Management Committee or to the National Executive Committee. So those rules that govern elections in the party, in many cases, are not the rules aren't followed the way they should follow. So if instead of somebody being elected to the position of provincial chairman, for example, which is something which should happen, there should be a committee, a provincial conference, people come and vote and everything. the president appoints a vice chairman. So somebody being appointed to the position of council, what's it called, conference chairman. The provincial chairman of the party appoints the conference chairman. That's a problem because the constitution of the party is not being followed. So people are going to complain. But the constitution says positions should be elected. We should stand. I wanted to stand, but I have not been able to stand because this position has been filled by somebody appointed by the president. There is a committee, the provincial committee, that is running. You're elected. The president or the National Management Committee or the National Executive Committee then decides this committee is not doing well. That they remove it, they suspend it, they dissolve it. Before the 5-year term has finished. That's another area where there's interference, but people are removed from their positions, not by those who elected them, but by authorities within the party. This also happens. So the general party will say the provincial committee of Eastern Province has been dissolved. And then someone is appointed to act in the position. That creates problems. Then you have the most serious one, which I think, recently somebody went to court to complain about the president of UPND having lapsed. His term of office finished, but he continued in office and so forth. Now, what is missing in many of those things is litigation. What you find is few members of political parties actually take cases to court to get the courts to protect their rights as members. Very few. This case of somebody called the Longway is an interesting case, especially in the area of litigation, because this is a member who says the rules of our party are not being followed and went to court to seek interpretation. But is it right that the party leaders can extend their term? Is it right for them to do that? But because the extension also involved the president of the republic, became complicated. If it was just a blanket complaint about extending the term, maybe it wouldn't have been a problem. There was also the issue that the party involved, not just a non party, it was a ruling party. So the Concord was not able to decide that matter in a manner that would have been, I think, would have followed the rules of national justice. They were guided by the fact that the person involved is the president, the party involved is the ruling party. So I don't know what the ruling is, but they didn't agree with the person who petitioned. But from my standpoint, that side of members actually going to court should be strengthened, because if you read in Article 60 of the Constitution, it says there that among the rights of members that members should have the right to actually go to court to challenge a decision of the party, of their party. They must be able to do that. The previous government of Edgar Lungu wanted to remove that particular position, where members can actually litigate, where they can go to court, and remove it through that butane thing, but it failed. So it's still there, even if it's not being enforced, but it's there. That members have rights, and these rights include the right to challenge their party if it's not doing right things. The Constitution Article 60 also talks about the fact that every party should have primary elections. Primary elections, meaning that for elective office, if there is going to be an election, a general election for councillors, MPs, council chairperson or mayors, and MPs and the president, the party should select those people democratically within the party. No one just say, oh no, I'm the candidate without any primary election. So you'll find, again, another area of serious dispute is the selection or nomination of candidates for electoral office, especially when the nomination is conducted by primary elections. Because parties tend not to respect the decisions of the people that is made through primary election. With somebody, they failed primary election, and somebody defeated in primary election, but is favored by the party structures, by senior party leaders. So they will decide, even if this person lost the primaries, is a person who won. Maybe the person has money, the person is loyal to the party, and so many things. So what then happens is that the person who lost the primary is adopted, and those who won are left out. So this phenomenon of independent candidates. But again, how to resolve that? How to resolve that is the issue. How do you resolve the issue of replacing popular candidates with unpopular ones? How do you resolve it? What mechanisms does the party have to address it? If you take the case of UPND, the recent case of UPND, where in many places, especially southern, western, northwestern provinces, the party did not adopt people who are popular. So this led to many independent candidates. And the party now said, no, people should stand as independents. People are being coerced into withdrawing as candidates or as independent candidates. Some will be withdrawn. Some may be even bribed to withdraw and so forth. But again, it's undemocratic because you find that's not how to go about it. The best is to ensure that the popular candidates are adopted. That's it. You see? But how, you see, I think you heard case where it's the conflict between the independents who are popular and the imposed candidates is so intense that in some cases that there's electoral violence. The case of Mazabuka, involving Garinkombe, then violence was taking place because the person who is adopted is not the one that people wanted. So the independent candidate happened to be someone who was a senior member of the party, who was a cabinet minister. But for some reason, I lost favor with the president and the establishment. So he has been marginalized. But that's a person that people want. So you find attention. I've heard, for example, that there are insinuations to the effect that Gary Nkomo should not even use the name of the president. He should not use the name of the party. He should campaign just on. But the thing is, it's something which we have witnessed in the past. The independents sometimes campaign for particular presidential candidates. Nothing wrong with that. And there's no rule which says that independent can campaign for a presidential candidate. They just don't belong to a party, but they can campaign for someone who belongs to a party. So again, within the party itself, that is a matter which can easily be resolved and could be resolved. But up to this point, there doesn't seem to be a mechanism of addressing issues where the interests of the local party structure and those of the national structure are reconciled. Because what then happens is that the preference of the local structure is not the preference of the national structure. And you know, any organization should have a mechanism for dissolving that. They cannot be, you know, you cannot simply say because we have the interest of the party, we want this particular individual, even if they only got zero in the primaries, the one that we want. No, they must justification. Why have primary? Why should you have primary elections if you cannot choose people? You cannot select people who the people want. If you go to the UK or the US, when they have primaries, they don't interfere. Primaries are primaries. Serious thing, you know. People who go for primaries, and those primaries, whoever wins the primary, that's all. Those are the candidates for the party. You know, we need to reach a stage where we can institutionalize the primary election as a way of selecting members to stand for elective office, where party members are involved in selecting who they want to represent them, not where the party structure, the leadership of the party, the president is the one who decides who should stand. So you have loyalty of the people who are selected, who go through. It's not to the constituents, but it's the person who actually was the one who made them become MPs. And that defeats the democracy.
Okay. So you spoke of these primary elections, and in the Constitution, it requires these political parties to actually uphold democratic principles and constitutional values.
Yeah.
Do you think practically on the ground, these political parties are actually upholding those principles? As you spoke of the primary elections, to what extent do you think they are or not?
By and large, they are not. Majority of political parties in Zambia are not founded on purpose. They are what I would call electoral vehicles established for individuals to get into power. They form a party so that they use the party to come to power. And because of that, the premise is that if I form a party, then it's my property. I own it. When the Electoral Front was formed in 2001, other people went to register it. Then it was given to Microsoft. And when Microsoft took over the Patriotic Fund, it became personal property. In other words, no one could come forward and challenge the leadership of Patriotic Fund. Whenever conventions were held, because I know only one convention was held in 2011. It was a convention where the leader was simply crowned. It was a coronation. He was unopposed. It was by design that there should be no one to challenge him. I think the same is the case with the UPND. The first and only election for leadership in UPND was held in 2006 after Mazoka died. And so Mazoka was the founder of UPND. There was a leadership contest, and Agana Chirema was elected, defeating Sakiwa Scott, who was then vice president. Since then, 2006, to date, no one has challenged Mr. Chirema for leadership of UPND. And the constitution of the UPND has been designed in a way that it makes it difficult for anybody else to challenge it. I say this because I know, because I was there when UPND was formed. I was one of the founder members of UPND. In the original draft of the constitution of UPND, all positions were elective, all of them. from president, vice president, secretary general, treasurer general, all the chairman of committees and deputy chairman of committees, they're all elected. Today, at the national convention, there's election for the president. On paper, people can actually stand. In practice, it's difficult to stand. So the president normally goes through and oppose. I mean, at least there have been 2 elections like that under that system. The one in 2021 and the one which we had recently. After the president is elected, there's an election for the members of National Management Committee. They don't stand for a position. They only stand to be members of National Management Committee. Once they're elected by the membership, I don't know the electoral college how it's constituted, because now they do it online, I think. Then the president appoints these people to particular position. Secretary General, Vice President, Treasurer, and so forth. But they don't contest positions as such, which is very anomalous. Because, in a democratic system and democratic organization, positions are actually contested. People stand for them. That's not the case. But at least there's some semblance of competition. Other parties don't even have elections, don't have conventions. Once they're established, that's it. The leader of the party is actually there in perpetuity. No one can challenge them. They can't be removed. Any talk of challenging the leader results in somebody being removed. One good example, and I want to give this example because it is a classic example of democracy at work. The party called the Democratic Party, DP, invited Mr. Hari Kalava to come and stand on their ticket in 2021. I'm not know 2021 or 20, or it was in 2016. So, Mr. Kalava became the face of the party and became the presidential candidate. After the 2021 elections, these members of the party said, no, you aren't a leader of the party. You are simply a presidential candidate. We only put you there to stand as a presidential candidate. But you aren't the one really. You didn't inform this party. And this issue had to do with accounting for money. He was getting money, campaign funds from somewhere. Because he couldn't disclose where the money came from and so forth, they said, no, if you cannot disclose, then you can go. We don't need you. The matter went to court. And when it was clear that actually Mr. Clark he left and formed his party, now called Citizens First, which he now leads, because the other one, he didn't lead it. He was only invited to come and present candidate. But other than that, there are many parties I can tell you that have been on the books since 1991, where they've had one leader continuously. When the leader dies, the party also dies. Because there's no other, you see, the leader and the party are one and the same thing. Now, that when you have a situation like that where parties don't have internal procedures of continuity, it's not good for democracy. And in other parties, which I want to mention on this program, on your podcast, when members or officials disagree with a leader, they are expelled. And I think you just have to read the newspaper to see the number of people who are leaving the parties because they can't get along with the party leader. where the party leader is not just is there more or less like an owner, CEO of the party, like as if a party is a company which is owned where the leader is the majority shareholder and people have left. So the choice that members have is to follow this leader and ensure that they are loyal to the leader. And that's the only way they can be members of this particular organization. The vision of the party is not a collective vision of the members. It's a vision of the individual who is the party. Because a party should represent a broad spectrum of interests. If my party represents the Labour Party, or the workers, working class, and my membership, my leadership, subscribe to what the party stands for, then they should be able to say, let's do things this way. Let's promote the workers' interests. And these are the workers' interests. We are not doing that. And I should not say, no, I know what is best. No. Because the interests you represent, it's not your own interests, but interests of a group of people. That's supposed to be. So really, at the personal level of relationships between leaders and their members, leaders and their officials, that's why of tension. As to the relationship between a political party and its followers, supporters, and so forth, there's no connection. Because what happens is, as I told you earlier on, you simply need money to bus people to a rally. Yeah, you just need money to get people to do things for you. So as long as you pay them, there will be some semblance of a membership. But when elections come, you get very few votes. But these are not your members. They don't subscribe to what you stand for. The membership of a party like Labour Party in the UK is very small. Maybe about 5 million people. Yeah? But people who vote for Labour Party are in millions. So the membership of those who actually subscribe start to change. Those who belong to a church, a particular denomination, they pay tithe every month, isn't it? They show their commitment. They actually pay tithe every month. They go to church every Sunday and they pay offering. Those are members of that part, of that church. But there are many Christians who will say they're Catholics, for example. Many of them, but they don't go to church. They don't, and they don't contribute anything to any church, but they say they're Christians. Isn't it? So in Zambia, the same thing happens. You will see when there's an election, a party gets 2.8 million votes, like UPND got in 2021. That's not a membership of UPND. Or 1.8 for PF. That's not the membership of PF. The membership is much smaller than that. When it comes to actual membership, it's very, very small. So this mass of the people are only connected to the party during elections, whether they support the party or they don't. That's all. They can do certain things during election. They can volunteer, do things and so forth. They can contribute a bit of money. They can the party to win and so forth. But they are not members of the party. Right? Members are those who contribute to the party to keep it going. Members are those who have positions in the party. So when recently there was a requirement, for example, that independents should resign from their parties, I was very surprised that such a condition could be given. Because if you look at the Afrobarometer research findings, they show that people who are attached, who say they are attached to political parties, are very few, maybe under 20%, who are attached, who actually are attached to a political party. They're very few. So when somebody stands on a particular ticket, I just come to you and say, can you be on the ticket of this party? You know, no problem. So you are adopted. You are not just on that person. Then you are put on the ticket of the political party. Eh? Now, if you were not adopted by a political party and start to run independent, there must be no requirement that you should resign, because you may not have been a member of that party anyway. You know, like they say, oh yeah, Gary Komu should resign and so forth. But was he a member? Was to be a member, you must go on a register that party. And many of these parties don't have registers or members. They don't have. If you ask them, they'll tell you they don't even know how many members they have. Huh? But at the same time, a body like SEDROBZ wants people to resign as a condition to be independent. The assumption is that they were members of a political party. But how do they verify that? Or independent, somebody even went to court to challenge the fact that all these independents should first resign, or they should be their nomination should be invalidated because they didn't resign. No, but not all independents belong to political parties. You see, so the whole, of course, that particular action was thrown out by the courts, but the assumption that political parties have control, they actually have members, is a false one. But they don't have, or they don't have as many members as they claim to have. We have 14 presidential candidates in this election that is coming on August 13. 14, including the ruling party. If you start with the 13 who are challenging the ruling party, many of them have no structures. The party led by Ban was formed in the week that the nomination was done. So is the party led by Makebizu. We've never heard of them before. Have you ever heard of them before? No. So they just sprang from nowhere. But suddenly, there are crowds at their rallies. Can you say those crowds are members of those parties? No. They aren't crowd members of those parties. But they're crowds. So people are going there because they are seeing, oh yeah, an electoral alternative. Not necessarily that they belong to the parties. You see? So this is the thing that, coming back to the issue of democracy, how parties are organized and how, they ensure that members of these parties at least adhere to some democratic principles, which is in the Constitution, in Article 60. It's there that parties should actually democratic principles. You can study even now, even the I'm studying right now. I'm studying the alliances. That's my project, project. I'm doing the alliances, but even these alliances, we'll see how they are formed. They're not democrats. People just say, oh yeah, they wake up one morning and say, oh yeah, we now support Pandulili. Then they go there. There's no memorandum of understanding. There's no structure of how they would relate to this movement, this thing that is, don't say whatever it is. There's no, they just turn up and say, yeah, Mr. Institution Bakambwiri, who is contesting, I think, as MP for somewhere in Rwanda, on the ticket of Caesar's first Calabar's party, just wakes up one morning and I'm now going to support Mundui. Even if I'm standing on Calabar's party, but the presidential candidate I'm supporting is this one. That's lack of discipline. Don't do something like that. You can't stand on a particular platform, a political platform, and then you support a different platform. You can't do that. But all this tells you about the way our political parties are organized. Because this thing of Mundogire looks different from Citizen First. Citizen First is a property of one man who is Harikala. This Mundogire thing looks much broader. There are more people involved in it. So it has a wider appeal. That's why somebody said, I think this thing, it may win. Huh? It looks more viable. So let me associate myself with this particular organization, which doesn't seem to be owned by this individual, but somehow can influence him and so forth. Talk too much. Let me hear from you.
Not at all. Enjoying our conversation. So, with the upcoming elections, there's the aspect of electoral disputes is something which I would say is inevitable. And looking at political parties, they are kind of at the center of some of these electoral disputes. What way do you think these political parties can actually build capacity to make use of these electoral dispute resolution mechanisms so that they can actually effectively use them? And also looking at past elections and those electoral dispute mechanisms that were used, what lessons can be learned from them?
I think the first, as I said before, the first area of dispute is the internal in the party itself on the adoptions. When that is done, the next one is intra-party dispute. This will arise in the campaigns themselves, when parties and candidates, clash in terms of going to the same areas. That's a dispute. The ECZ, I think, has committees that deal with dispute resolution in each district. And when there is clash of timetables and so forth, then they should come in and start to resolve that. There will be disputes in terms of the messaging, what rival parties are saying about their rivals. Character assassination, hate speech, all kinds of, those also are supposed to be addressed by these issues, these committees. People live in communities, right? So the supporter of one party may live side by side support of another party. And in the absence of tolerance, people can actually find themselves at war. Just wearing a regalia of a particular opposing political camp can create problems. There is a case of someone who was playing music song for the opposition after repairing a radio. And a member of the ruling party, supporter of the ruling party, went to his person, beat him up to death. That's tolerance, lack of tolerance. People can do that. People are doing that. People are killed, somewhere in a country, I don't know, the place where somebody was killed. So people are being killed because of lack of tolerance. So in the campaign period, there are disputes on the campaigns itself, the campaign timetables, the clashes, and so forth. Then there will be disputes that will arise from the election itself, the way the election is organized. the way the election is run, whether the Electoral Commission is going to be fair to all candidates. And what are the things? What happens is that when elections take place, each party and the candidate should have a representative in the polling station, so that they're able to observe what's happening. There have been cases in the past where Electoral Commission officials have said, no, there are too many people in the room, some of you should go out. Creating suspicion that if one's representative is not there, one agent is not there, there's a possibility that they can manipulate the vote. Then there will be disputes to do with the count itself. Counting of votes is done by hand. But there are disputes to do with whether a ballot is valid or not valid. Well, the person who voted, they make a mark outside the box, but in line, on the same line as the person is, not inside. Or they mark on the photo of the person. That disputes like that. Other polling agents, polling officials accept that as a value because the person has an idea of who to choose. Others to choose. This is valid. As in this box, of course, should be. That creates problems. People's votes are reduced and others' votes are increased. Then there are issues of just the fairness in which the Electoral Commission officials handle the entire process. We have had cases where from the polling station to a totaling center, the numbers change, the numbers are reduced. There are theories that we have heard that, sometimes votes are taken from some candidates and given to others and so forth. So the lack of transparency of the electoral body, the ECZ, can create problems and can create grievances at the voting place. These are the complaints which then go into election petitions. Those who are unhappy will now say, no, I'm not happy how the election was done. I think it was done unfairly. The Electoral Commission did not follow the law. Certain regulations are not followed, and so forth. I was disadvantaged, and they will petition the result. At the polling station, it is possible to resolve those disputes. If somebody is not happy that the counting was not properly done, they can ask for a recount. And they count 3-4 times at the polling station. Once that is done, it's very difficult to reverse the decision. But at the polling station, it is possible to actually correct errors. If those who are participating are unhappy, they can say, okay, we count again. I did not see how the counting was not properly done. Let's count again. The second time, let's count again. I want to be clear. And then all those rejected ballots, let's see them. All of us should be happy that actually they had really rejected votes. They are not just put there so to reduce the number of votes for particular candidates. So I think those are some of the disputes. What is happening now, if you follow that political parties are very alert to what the ECZ is doing. They are alert to whether the Electoral Commission is administering the election in a manner that is fair to everyone. they are not giving undue advantage to one party compared to another. One case I think that is worth mentioning is the use of public resources by state officials, in this case the president and the vice president. They're the only ones who are allowed by law to use public resources. They're the only ones who are in office and they use public resources. But you should also know that there are public officers, like permanent secretaries, district commissioners, and all these people who are involved in managing and organizing elections for the president and vice president. Right now, they're doing that. There was a statement which was issued in Mchinga by the permanent secretary from Mchinga that the president is coming there. People should come and meet him and so forth. It is political. The permanent secretary is a civil servant. They should not be involved in organizing the election campaign for the president. And if you have noticed, they are not using the word campaign. They are saying the president is having public engagements. They are saying vice president is having an official visit. Why are they not using the word campaign? So that it does not look like it's like his job. It's his job. He just continues his job to inspect the project. No, but right now it's campaign. And he's a candidate like everybody else. So he should be treated like a candidate and not necessarily as president. You see? So there's that joke. The use of this. How many people travel with the president when he comes to campaign?
Quite a number.
He travels with officials from State House. He travels with his security detail. And those people draw fuel, they draw allowances. So that's how the public resources are utilized for the campaign of a candidate in an election who just happens to be president. That's an area which I think is of concern. But also, I think you are aware that this is drew a timetable for all presidential candidates, except the sitting head of state. That exception of the president is an anomaly, because the president is also a candidate. So what does it mean for the president to be left out of the program? It means that he can go anywhere and create unnecessary tension. We are aware, for example, that the police have always given guidance that if the president is in a particular province, there should be no other rally in that province, no other meeting by any other political party or candidate when he's in that province. That is also it affects the playing field. It's very possible to have two meetings in Lusaka, one in Kanyama and one in Matero, on the same day, but different parties. But what the police will say that if the president is around, then it's not possible. There should be no other meeting by any political party. There'll be no tension, but I'm aware that the party led by Richwell Siamunene, I think Richwell Siamunene is a presidential candidate. They were told to leave Northwestern Province because the president was going there. And Richwell Siamunene complained about that. It was on social media, that story. So those are some of the issues that elections, the dispute that arise out of elections that can be resolved because the Electoral Dispute Resolution committees are supposed to deal with those. The issue is that when it involves the ruling party and when it involves the president, normally they want to resolve in a fair way. There's a tendency for either the police, to favor the ruling party. If it involves the ruling party, there's a problem. Unless it involves just other parties. But the moment the ruling party is involved, you've heard of fights, where people come to a command center. Command center is where they congregate in a constituency, and that's where they eat from. And that's where they make their projects, programs, and so forth. But other parties can come there and disrupt what is going on, beat up the people. So these are happening on a daily basis, this kind of disputes, where they actually come there and say, look, you're not supposed to be here, and so forth. There was such a story recently about, I think, UPND going to a command center for these Mondogere people in RIOP, and disrupting the fight and so forth. So again, you see, it's really, for me, to avoid those tensions, to avoid the disagreements and so forth, a spirit of tolerance and give and take will be best. Parties should be able to exercise restraint, and to know that they are in this thing, in this election, not for themselves, but really represent us, and that is not really a do or die thing, there will be a tomorrow after the 13th of August. So there's not think that, if they lose the election, then that's the end of the world. No. We had Kaunda. He lost. He was there. He lived for more than 30 years after he lost power. We had Chiluba. He lost. Chiluba stepped down. But he was there. We had the Monawasa. He died in office. We had Upia Banda. He lost an election. He lived for some years. Sata died in office. Lungu lost, lived for some years before he died last year. So there's always life after an election. And there's no need for political parties to take it that if they lost, the world will come to an end. No. They are there to offer themselves as representatives of the people and offer people a choice. I am available. You can also try me. Even if there are others, you can also try me. It's simply a privilege to lead. That's what it is. But for others, especially those who are in power, they feel if they lose power, then they lose everything that they have at the moment. That's why democracy is designed to involve people in choosing who should lead them at periodic times. So the power now has shifted from those who are in power to those who hold the power. The people hold the power. And they're only entrusted in a government for a specific period of time, after which they can withdraw it and give it to somebody else. So the power that people hold, they can't decide themselves. They give it, repose it with the government. And we are now at that stage where the people, in their multitudes, will go to the polling stations and decide whether or not they want those in power to continue or to step down and give the power to another group of people. It's a beauty of democracy.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much. So, as we wind up our conversation, I'd like to have your opinion with regards to electoral disputes. Do they represent a weakness in the electoral system or in the political parties themselves? And post-election date, are there any things that the electoral system and political parties can actually change in order to improve or lessen the electoral disputes moving forward?
Oh, that's a difficult question. Electoral disputes are a symptom of the health of a political system. By that I mean a political system that is weak, that is authoritarian, that is personalized, and so forth, will generate a certain type of dispute. We look to South Africa as a model in Africa of a democratic system, but it also has a lot of disputes. South Africa has an electoral system that is run on what is called proportional representation. The parties in South Africa, the African National Congress, among them the Democratic Alliance, are very, very old political parties. Very old. The ANC was formed in 1912. So because the party is old, it's been around for a long time, it has developed a tradition of being democratic internally. And that is what has really helped South Africa as a country, because you have a very old political party which over the years has learned the art of renewal, of choosing people democratically and so forth. But even then, there are still resistance. So I would argue that the nature of the electoral system we have, whether it is first past the post like one we have here, or proportional representation, will have a bearing on the nature of the electoral disputes you have. That's number one. Number two, whether a country is democratic or undemocratic, in other words, a democracy or dictatorship, also has a bearing on how disputes are handled. In an authoritarian system, generally speaking, the country, the political system that is undemocratic will also mean that political institutions take from the system itself that being undemocratic is normal. It's not a bad thing. Very few, I don't know whether you heard, very few Zambians make demands like, why is that leader there all this time? Why is there no change of leadership? So you internalize undemocratic processes as normal. Why do we need elections in political parties? We need elections to renew a leadership, right? Don't have the same people all over for a long time. So we need that. In systems like the African nation, the one in South Africa, they can remove their leader in the party. They can actually vote the leader out. So the Jacob Zuma. They also did the same for Thabo Mbeki. They remove their leader. If the leader is a problem, they remove the leader. They can use parliament because they elect the president in parliament. They don't elect the president national. The party is elected, the party wins seats, and the party that has majority seats in parliament elects the president. That's what they do. But then, if they're unhappy with their president, they don't go to elections. They simply vote at president out in parliament itself, using parliamentary majority. But they can also remove the leader from their party and vote him out. So the system is so resilient that it cannot tolerate uncorrupt leaders. It cannot tolerate corrupt leaders. So Jacob Zuma was removed because he was associated with corruption, with those Gupta family and so forth. Now, when the system is undemocratic, coming to what talking about Zambia in general, it means that many parties will also be undemocratic in the way they do things. But most importantly, members of these parties will not be able to hold their leaders to account. They won't. Because it will look normal. When I said that, why is it that President Ichilema has been a leader of UPN since 2006? And if I am correct, he must have been leader of the party for about 25 years. How is it possible that the party cannot have a renewal? Now, what is important also is that we have a country which has regions. And if President Ichilema comes from Southern Province, there are members of that party who come from other parts of the country. At some point, there should be some kind of renewal where leadership can actually go to another group of people, just like that. But that's a conversation that should inform internal discussion within that party about leadership. That at which stage do we make a change? So I understand that even the term limit that was there, because there was a term limit in the constitution of the UPND, even that was removed. Somehow the constitution was amended. When it was amended, it now means that he can continue indefinitely as long as people want him, he can continue to be leader of the party. Again, I said, that's why all these things are important, to put term limit, to ensure that the renewal, but also to ensure that there's inclusion. There's all this talk now that no, now we're going to have a personal representation. Women are going to be in parliament, 20 women, and so forth. There's no debate on how these people will be chosen. When there was a proposal at the beginning of this debate, there was a proposal that the PR system or PR seats that are reserved are 40. Parties should submit lists, closed lists of people that they want to go to parliament on that list. Women, 20, 15, youth, and 5 disabled. The first draft of the Electoral Dispute Act said that 5 days after closing of nominations for parliament and president, all political parties should submit a list of 40 people. Because the allocation of seats will be based on the number, the percentage of votes that a presidential candidate receives. Before we knew it, that period when so many bills were being presented in parliament, that text was changed. The text that is there now is that the parties will present the list
of candidates on PR after the elections and the results are declared. If you go to the South African system, you'll find that in South Africa, they have a PR system. The PR system that people go to vote for a party. But the list of people who should go to parliament is forwarded to the Electoral Commission before the election takes place. So if a party gets 40%, then to get 40% of the seats, there are 400 seats, so they get 40% of that. That's how it works. So the candidates who are on the list that the party has given are presented in advance of the election. Here, we are told that after the results are declared, then parties can submit the list. What it does is it gives too much power in the parties and the leadership of the parties on who to put on that list afterwards. When if they did it before, like now, they can change. Because during this period, if my name was on the list, even if the president thinks that I wasn't campaigning for him, he can't remove me. Because the name will be declared by the ECZ. These are ones that elected. But they follow according to the number. If there are 40 people, they fall from 1 to 40. That's according to how the party has performed. So if you got 20%, you get 20% of their 40, just like that. So, in conclusion, I would like to say that a party, the problem that parties have to do with the health of the democracy itself. If your democracy is weak, your party system must be weak. You cannot expect undemocratic parties to actually democratically resolve their issues. But undemocratic. So they are likely not to be able to solve their problems. Parties, you see, that try to do that the right way are only parties which are properly established. I expect parties like the party in government to be able to do that. But it doesn't do that either because of the power that the presidency holds. So what the president says is what goes. So it's difficult to actually resolve issues democratically or to get the democracy work in these parties. So the dispute resolution is not really a question of not having a mechanism. It is a question of not following the laid down mechanisms which are already there. Don't be forward. Because in a democracy, you would want to, when somebody accuses you of something, you're supposed to be given a chance to separate yourself. You're supposed to be brought before a disciplinary committee. You're supposed to state your side of the story. But it doesn't happen. People get expelled. Simply that. They get expelled. I'm aware that some of the people who chose independence, they're having a hard time with their parties for doing that. But that's it. I don't think I have anything more to say.
Thank you so much, Dr. Simutanyi.
It has been a pleasure.
Yes, it was a very in-depth, interesting discussion. Yeah, and I would love to go on, but
I think I talk too much.
No, you don't. You're very enthusiastic, and it was a very interesting conversation. Thank you so much for sparing the time and joining us on the Cyber Podcast. It was a pleasure and honor.
I'm most obliged. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, viewers, that was another exciting episode of the Cyber Podcast SEDROBZ series. I hope this was something that has helped you understand the Electoral Dispute Resolution and its interrelation with political parties. And see you next time. Thank you.